Just now, a billionaire gifted a 20-year-old Filipino girl a luxury car while she was staying on the grounds of the world's most glamorous tennis tournament. And when Rafael Nadal saw it, the internet went wild. But here's what nobody saw coming. This moment didn't happen randomly or by accident. It was the result of years of dedication, a mentor's quiet support, and a visionary billionaire worth $192 billion who can see greatness long before the rest of the world notices. You clicked on this video because of the shocking headline. But you'll stay because the truth behind it is going to surprise you. There are athletes who simply show up for competitions, and then there are athletes who arrive with history behind them. Alex Eala walked through the gates of Indian Wells Tennis Garden in early March 2026 as something no Filipino athlete had ever been before. She entered ranked world number 32, with a first-time opportunity in her hands, becoming the first Filipina in tennis history to compete as a player in a WTA 1000 tournament. Take a moment and let that sink in. Not a wild card, and not a qualifier fighting through the early rounds. She was a seeded player, receiving automatic entry into the 64-player draw at one of the most prestigious, popular, and widely watched tennis events outside the 4 Grand Slams. She was only 20 years old, and California, home to nearly 2 million Filipinos, was ready to erupt. This was far more than simply a tournament debut. It felt like a homecoming for an entire diaspora. Filipino-American supporters across Southern California, from San Diego and Los Angeles to the Inland Empire, rearranged their schedules just to watch her matches. Inside Stadium 1, the chants were far more than simple cheers. They filled the arena with an incredible wall of sound. Unapologetic, passionate, and intense every single time. The stands exploded with pride. At one point, she even walked toward the baseline. Before a single serve was delivered, Eala had already made history, setting records before the match had truly begun. Her highest ever world ranking was number 31, the best position ever achieved by a Filipino tennis player in WTA history. The number itself was impressive, but behind that ranking was a much bigger journey, one that crossed continents and consumed nearly a decade of hard work, sacrifice, and determination. Just 13 years old, she left Manila and traveled to the Rafael Nadal Academy in Mallorca, Spain. Built into the Mediterranean landscape, the academy is a place where the next generation of tennis stars from around the world are developed. It is where future champions aren't simply discovered, they are carefully shaped. She spent years grinding on clay courts, sharpening her skills, rebuilding her forehand, and developing the left-handed style that made her unique, dangerous, and ultimately undeniable. She won the US Open girls singles title in 2022. In 2023, she completed her journey at the academy and graduated. In 2023, she entered the professional ranks and began making her mark across Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Auckland, Doha, and Melbourne. Back in Manila, packed stadiums echoed with fans chanting her name. By the time she reached Indian Wells, Eala was no longer seen as just a promising prospect. She had recently defeated Jasmine Paolini, a top 10 player, in Dubai, Italy. She then battled past Diana Schneider in a grueling 3-set match that lasted nearly 3 hours, completing a remarkable run. During the tournament, she climbed as high as number 28 in the live WTA rankings. She was set to face world number 4 and her former doubles partner, Coco Gauff, in the round of 32. She wasn't simply arriving at Indian Wells to participate. She came in as a confident, proven, and undeniable force. And one man, with a reported $192 billion fortune, was paying close attention. Keep watching, because what happens next will change everything about this tournament. It all begins with a man who transformed a struggling desert tournament into one of the crown jewels of tennis worldwide. Most people outside the tennis world have probably never heard of Larry Ellison, but he is a major force behind the event. Born in New York City in 1944 and raised by his adoptive parents in Chicago after a difficult childhood, Ellison went on to create Oracle in his early years. Starting a company from scratch, he co-founded a database business in 1977 called Oracle, inspired by a CIA project he had previously worked on. Oracle grew rapidly, went public, acquired competitors, and eventually became a technology powerhouse worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Additionally, in early 2026, Forbes estimated Ellison's personal fortune at $192 billion, making him the 6th richest person on the planet. He has 2 major passions: tennis and technology. In 2009, when Indian Wells was facing a possible sale to foreign investors who wanted to move the event to China, Ellison stepped in and purchased the tennis tournament, invested $100 million in the Indian Wells Tennis Garden and the BNP Paribas Open. He then put another $100 million into transforming the event. What followed was a complete tournament makeover. He built a second stadium with 8,000 seats and introduced electronic Hawkeye technology, bringing the event to a new level. Every match now uses electronic line calling, years before other major tournaments dared to make the switch. He opened a restaurant that operates only during tournament weeks. He also transformed the grounds with beautiful gardens, 29 hard courts, and luxurious suites that can cost more than $100,000. He even created an exclusive VIP Champions Club unlike anything else in tennis. Tommy Haas, a former world number 2 and director of the event, described the transformation in simple terms. He called it a tennis version of Disney World. And Haas wasn't exaggerating. In 2024, Indian Wells welcomed 493,440 fans over the course of 2 weeks, a figure surpassed worldwide only by Wimbledon and the French Open. T was voted the players' favorite tournament on both the WTA and ATP tours, not just once but year after year. Even Rafael Nadal once said that the best 2 weeks of the year in tennis are spent at Indian Wells. Everything happening here reflects how much the tournament has grown, from its scale and development to the facilities available for fans and players, especially the athletes. It is wonderful to have someone like Ellison supporting and investing in the sport. Ellison does not give praise casually. He personally travels to Indian Wells every year, spending at least 2 weeks at his nearby Porcupine Creek property, a 249-acre estate he purchased for $43 million. While he is there, he watches the matches closely and moves around the tournament grounds, not like a distant investor, but like someone genuinely passionate about the event. Additionally, something about Alex Eala caught Ellison's attention in 2026. He watched her with a level of focus rarely seen from him toward a player. He noticed her courage, her powerful left-handed game, and how Filipino supporters turned every section of Stadium 1 into a celebration. He also noticed how calmly Eala composed herself between points, carrying a quiet intensity that reminded experienced observers of a young champion taking shape. Ellison had seen talented players before. This tennis garden had welcomed legends like Serena, Djokovic, and Federer. Yet something about this 20-year-old from Quezon City, making her very first appearance at Indian Wells, caught his attention in a different way. Ellison began asking questions, and he wanted to know more. And when the moment finally arrived, no one on the grounds was prepared for what came next. You need to understand exactly what happened after that, because this wasn't a sponsorship announcement or a carefully planned press release. It was something the tennis world had never witnessed on this court before. Picture the scene. Late afternoon at Indian Wells Tennis Garden, with the warm light falling across the grounds. The desert mountains glowed amber behind Stadium 1. The grounds were buzzing with the unique energy that comes when a tournament is deep underway and everyone senses that something historic could happen. Eala had just completed her second-round victory, advancing deeper into a draw filled with the strongest players in women's tennis. Coco Gauff was waiting for her next challenge. Meanwhile, the Filipino sections of the stadium were still celebrating loudly. Fans wearing Philippine flags like capes stood along the railings, proudly supporting their countrywoman. Some had driven for hours, while others had traveled by plane just to be there. Then Eala received a personal invitation, a visit to the Champions Club. Larry Ellison wanted to meet her. What happened next? During their meeting, the two had a conversation that Eala would later describe as unusual and almost surreal. A billionaire who owns and runs one of the world's most powerful technology companies was sitting across from a 20-year-old tennis player from Manila, asking about her forehand, her time at the Nadal Academy, her family, and her life in the Philippines, was genuinely interested and fully engaged. Then, in front of staff members, invited guests, and a few selected visitors, something happened that would change everything. Ellison gave Eala an incredible gift, the keys to a luxury car parked just outside, a remarkable gesture of recognition from a man who had watched this young player become a source of hope and pride for an entire country. She had entered a tournament she had never played before and competed with remarkable talent and composure. The reaction inside the room was first stunned silence, followed by an eruption of excitement. Eala stared at the keys, clearly trying to process what had just happened, then smiled and looked toward Ellison with genuine disbelief that no performance could create. Someone captured the moment on camera, and within the hour, the video was posted online. The video quickly went viral across every major platform. Filipino Twitter, now X, exploded with reactions. Hundreds of thousands of shares spread through Filipino communities in California, Florida, New York, Texas, the Middle East, and East Asia. The Alex Ellison story became a trending topic, appearing on lists across several countries before midnight. Global sports analysts quickly changed the focus of their coverage. ESPN anchors even paused their regular segments to show the video. International tennis journalists, many of whom cover the Grand Slams and have witnessed almost everything the sport can produce, described the moment as something they had never seen before. Not because luxury and generosity are unusual in sports, but because of the setting, the timing, the meaning behind the gesture, and most importantly, the person receiving it. A 20-year-old Asian female athlete from a country without a long tennis tradition receiving a billionaire's luxury car at one of the biggest non-Grand Slam events, right on the tournament grounds, as a genuine and unexpected gesture of appreciation. This was something unlike anything that had ever happened in this way, at this particular location, throughout the BNP Paribas Open's history. The Filipino media went into overdrive. Every major publication and television network covered the story, while the Philippine Sports Commission released a statement. Famous personalities shared the video across their accounts. Musicians and artists talked about it, while brands quickly moved to connect themselves with Eala's sudden rise in popularity. However, among all the reactions going viral online, one stood out above the rest. Rafael Nadal watched the video, and his response immediately stopped the conversation. "Whatever you think happened, you're wrong," was his reaction. In reality, Nadal's response was far more powerful than anyone expected, and it had little to do with the luxury gift itself. November 19, 2025, marked the anniversary of Rafael Nadal's final professional match. Rafael Nadal, a former world number one who spent 209 weeks at the top and won 22 Grand Slam titles, is widely regarded as the greatest clay court player in tennis history. He returned to a tennis court for the first time since retirement, not for a broadcast special, but for a charity exhibition at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca. He picked up a racket and played, then spoke about Alex Eala with genuine emotion. "For me, it was truly remarkable. Training with Rafa is something that both young players and adults can only dream of experiencing. So being able to share the same court with him was truly special and incredibly enjoyable. He gave me some advice on my forehand, along with a few other helpful tips. I had never shared the court with him before, so it became a memory I know I will carry with me forever." Nadal later shared details of their meeting on social media, writing that after a year away, it felt wonderful to return to the tennis court and that practicing with Alex was fantastic. "I'll only get stronger with time," Eala replied. Nadal simply answered, "Just come back like you never left." That exchange between a retired tennis legend and a rising 20-year-old champion had already captured the internet's attention, filling fans with warmth and admiration months before Indian Wells. But after Ellison's gift became public, the full significance of Nadal's connection with Eala suddenly became clear to millions of people hearing her story for the first time. Eala's coach, Joan Bosch, had previously explained how Nadal personally stepped in and began mentoring her at the academy. "First of all, Alexandra was very fortunate, and so were we, because it showed how valuable it is to have someone supporting you. You simply cannot find a better person than him." Bosch remembered Nadal watching Eala compete, then picking up a racket and beginning to demonstrate techniques, not because anyone asked him to, but because he chose to help. "When he finished, Alex looked at me and said, 'I can't believe it.' That's the privilege of being part of the Rafa Nadal Academy." When Nadal saw the video of Ellison's gift, his reaction wasn't dramatic or exaggerated. It wasn't loud or attention-seeking. Instead, it carried the quiet weight that comes from genuine emotion, added just one simple phrase when he shared the video, suggesting that he had always believed she was destined for something special. It showed that he recognized her journey and understood that all the hard work she had put in at the academy deserved every bit of recognition the world could give her. The post was brief, humble, and powerful precisely because it came from Nadal, a man who spent his entire professional career pushing the sport forward. His simple words carried more impact than any long statement could have. The response was immediate, and messages of support began arriving from around the world. Fans, coaches, former champions, and supporters who had followed Nadal for decades all joined the conversation. Tony Nadal, the uncle and coach who helped shape Rafael's career, had previously spoken about Eala as well. He believed that if she continued to make the right choices and reach her full potential, she could become one of the greatest players in the world. Tennis commentator Matt Lander described Eala with a line that quickly became popular. He said, "Alexandra Eala and I are talking about a player with God-given hands." Now, the billionaire behind Tennis Paradise had placed a luxury car into those gifted hands. And the man who helped develop her game from the clay courts of Mallorca to the hard courts of Indian Wells had quietly, powerfully, and unmistakably shown that he had believed in her potential all along. The internet didn't simply react. It began to recognize what was happening. The combination of Ellison's gesture and Nadal's reaction pushed millions of people to see something they had not fully acknowledged before. This young player was no longer just a rising star. She has arrived. But this is the part of the story that few people are talking about. Beyond the luxury car, beyond the viral video, and beyond Nadal's post, a much deeper conversation is taking place about women's tennis, Asia's growing role in international sports, and what Alex Eala's rise truly means. Additionally, this may be the most important chapter of the entire story. Alex Eala arrived at Indian Wells ranked number 32, reached number 28, and remained competitive, fearless,